Hey everybody, welcome to the video. Yes, I'm back again doing another MLB DFS video. We have a 4-game slate today, which I'll be more than happy to break down. I don't like anything below 4, so as long as we at least have a 4-game slate, I'll be happy to do a video for you guys. But before we continue, as always, if you guys can leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, consider the subscribe button. It really helps me out. I really do appreciate that. And I do cover some other sports as well. I know baseball is just about over. I'm not sure how many more videos I will be doing, but I do cover other sports as well. So if you're going to be a frequent visitor of the channel, you might as well hit that subscribe button and turn the notification bell so you don't miss out whenever I post new videos. And if you don't follow me on social media, it's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. ChrisPennell16 on Twitter, CPen16 over on IG. And if you miss more content over on Patreon, that's always much appreciated. But don't do it for baseball. Just do it for NFL or NASCAR because we still have some time left in those sports. Baseball, the days are pretty much numbered here. But if you guys do want to see more content, hop into the Discord chat and get access to the spreadsheets for whatever sport it is. I also do some other stuff for NASCAR as well. Links down below for that. But I think that's enough plugging. Let's just get into today's video. So the pitchers, it's a little bit of an iffy slate for the pitchers. I mean, I like Clayton Kershaw, I like Ian Anderson. I think these guys are fine. But other than that, it gets a little bit iffy. I like the price tag on Charlie Morton. We also saw his pitch out come up at the end of the regular season, but do I really want to play him versus the Yankees? Probably not. So these are the two guys that I landed on, Clayton Kershaw and Ian Anderson. We'll start up top with Clayton Kershaw, who's coming off an absolute monster outing in his first playoff start versus the Brewers, where he had 45.6 fantasy points. He went 8 innings and only 93 pitches. He was very, very efficient in that game and had 13 strikeouts and 3 hits, 0 runs, and only 1 walk. The guy was absolutely fantastic, and that was a common theme of what we saw earlier this season. It wasn't a common theme of him scoring 45 DraftKings points, but he was still very solid, 27, 23. He had a couple of sucky games in there, like 8 and 7 versus Arizona and the Angels, but 31, 23, 36, 28, 9 versus San Fran, but 27 versus Arizona. And I mean, he's just having a great year. I don't love the matchup here versus the Padres. They definitely have a pretty good lineup, especially some guys that can hit lefties very well, like Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., Austin Nola, Will Myers. Well, I'm probably missing some guys off the top of my head, but it's a very loaded lineup, so this is not going to be an easy task for Clayton Kershaw. He did face the Padres earlier in the season on September 14th, and he had 23 fantasy points, striking out 9. So that's pretty good. If they could do that again, I would certainly take it. He is a bit pricey here, but I think he'll be okay. He's the best pitcher on the slate, that's for sure. I'm not sure who's pitching for San Diego yet. It looks like it might be Zach Davies. That's what Draftkings and Fangraphs has, but I don't think it's been confirmed yet. But I think still Clayton Kershaw is the clear spend-up option on this slate. Then at SP2, I like Ian Anderson at 8,200. He had a really good start to start the playoffs. If I can pull up the game log really quick. So October 1st versus Cincinnati, he had 33.1 DraftKings points. Excellent outing and 99 pitches, struck out 9, only gave up 2 hits, 0 runs, and 2 walks. The guy was fantastic, and he has plenty of upside here. And so far in the season, he's got a 30% K rate. I mean, he didn't pitch as much as some of the other guys, like his first start was on August 26th, which is a pretty small sample size, but the numbers have been pretty strong. 3.45 xFIP. He had a nice 1.95 ERA, but still a 3.45 xFIP is pretty good. 30% K, which was a little bit bigger than or larger than Clayton Kershaw's 28% strikeout rate. 10% walk rate that I didn't love, but only a 25% hard contact rate and 0.28 home runs per 9 innings. Also got a lot of ground balls and not many fly balls as well. So Ian Anderson versus Miami, I think this is a pretty good spot. Miami's not complete trash. I mean, they're in the playoffs for a reason, but they did struggle versus righties this season. Didn't really have too much power if you're looking at their numbers. 25% K rate. Did walk quite a bit, but a 118 ISO, 242 batting average. Overall, not the best numbers in the world. They have some decent guys there, like Corey Dickerson. And you could throw in Matt Joyce that maybe give him some issue, but I think Ian Anderson's going to be fine here. 8,200, like the matchup. He's a heavy favorite, only 3.5 runs against him, 6 strikeouts over in Vegas, so you can sign me up for Ian Anderson. I think he's fine in all formats. And we'll move on to the bats. So I only have 2 pitchers. If you want to use someone else, let me just pull up the whole pitcher pool here. So you got Luzardo here versus Houston. Don't love that spot. I like Houston better than I like using Luzardo. Pablo Lopez, I like the Braves. Are the clear top stacking option on this slate. Tanaka, maybe, but even then, it's kind of hard to trust Tanaka. I do like some of the lefties on the Tampa Bay Rays. Urquidy, I believe that's how you say his name. He's interesting. I actually think he is viable. He's only 6,700. If you're looking at his games this season, he scored 4, 8, 30, 8, 17, and 11. He did face Oakland on September 10th, and he scored 8.5 points. Nothing great, only had one strikeout, but I think he's okay at 6,700 if you need some extra money. I probably should have threw him in here, to be honest, but I really didn't think I was breaking the bank with Clayton Kershaw and Ian Anderson. I just think they're the two clear options, and I could see a couple of guys on Oakland giving Urquidy there some issues, but these are the two guys I landed on. If you want to throw in a guy like I just mentioned, I think that's fine, but it just didn't feel as safe as these guys. So now we'll move on to the bats, and we'll start with catcher. As always, we have Will Smith at 4,500, potentially going up against Zach Davies. I've not seen that confirmed, which I guess I could double check on Twitter now. But he's certainly not a bad pitcher, but this Dodgers offense is pretty good, so I'll have some interest in Will Smith. He is crushing righties this season. Good versus lefties too, but versus righties over a 300 ISO, 271 batting average, 158 WRC plus, and over a 400 WOBA, but it's not really striking out much either, so I think he's fine. Zach Davies, pretty good pitcher, but he did actually give up a higher WOBA to the righties this season compared to the lefties, much higher strikeout rate, but overall, I mean, the Dodgers have such a powerful lineup. I think they can overcome that matchup versus Davies, potentially. Travis d'Arnaud, 4,200. He had a really good game last night, and the Braves are the clear stacking option on this slate. They're the only team with a team total that I have listed here, but I have to imagine they're going to have the highest team total on the slate. They scored 9 runs last night. Pablo Lopez, not the worst pitcher in the world, but not the best pitcher in the world either, and I'll give the advantage to the Braves. If I don't have a Braves bat listed on here, chances are I do like them, but I just don't want to list the entire slate. I just picked out a couple of guys I like at each position. Like, I don't have Acuna on here. If you want to play Acuna, yeah, fine option. Ozuna, yeah, fine option. Don't think I don't like them just because they're not on here. I just don't want to list the entire slate. But yeah, I do like Travis d'Arnaud. He has hit righties very well this season. 279 ISO, 444 WOBA, and a 352 batting average. Looking at Pablo Lopez's numbers this season, much lower WOBA compared to the lefties. I preferred lefties versus Lopez, but I'm not going to get too picky on a 4-game slate, so I think d'Arnaud's fine at the price point. Then Sean Murphy, 3,700. I mean, I wouldn't say his numbers really get you too excited. He's been a little bit better versus righties this season compared to the lefties, so he's got that going for him going up against Urquidy, but it's just kind of just throwing whoever fits at catcher, to be honest. First base, that's a little bit more fun. We have Freddie Freeman at 5,000. He's going to be one of the best plays on the slate. Pablo Lopez does struggle a little bit more with lefties, and Freddie Freeman's one of the best righty smashers in the entire league. A 380 batting average to righties, only a 12% K rate, and near 400 ISO, and near 500 on base percentage with a 219 WRC plus. Yeah, you can sign me up for some Freddie Freeman if you got the money for him. If you don't got the money for Freeman, we have Yuli Gurriel and Gman Choi as some nice value options. Yuli Gurriel, facing the lefty, he's actually had some pretty solid numbers versus lefties this season. Versus righties, he's been absolute trash. But a 310 batting average to lefties, only an 8% K rate, 293 ISO, and some overall very strong numbers. So I think he is certainly interesting. Gman Choi, 3,100. Going against Tanaka. Tanaka, not a guy I usually like to pick on for the most part, but Choi's got some decent pop versus righties, and actually Tanaka's been a little bit worse versus the righties in terms of WOBA, and versus actually in the strikeout rate too, but I still think Gman Choi is fine. Brandon Lau, I can never remember if it's either Brandon Lowe or Brandon Lau, or if it's Nate Lowe or Nate Lau. No, I think it's Brandon Lau. I can never remember, but anyway, he's fine. He's actually been better versus lefties this season compared to the righties, but still, he's got some decent numbers versus righties with a 250 ISO, so I think he's a fine option. He's a bit expensive, but overall, I think he's a solid play. Ozzy Albies, I didn't say Albies this time. I always say that. Ozzy Albies at 4,900. He's been pretty good versus the righties this year, and like I said, Pablo Lopez will struggle with the lefties, but a near 300 ISO versus them. Smaller sample size because he was injured for a bit, but a 333 batting average and some overall strong numbers, so I think he's fine if you're stacking with the Braves. Jose Altuve, 4,200, just cheap enough going up against a lefty. Numbers versus lefties this season are really anything to be desired, but less than 100 ISO. 174 batting average, but he's fine to like some of the Astros righties on this slate. Dropping down to third base, I got two options here. We have Alex Bregman at $4,100, so it's going to make him probably like the best play maybe not the best play, because you got Freeman there too, but Bregman at $4,100, that's just kind of like a lock and load in my opinion. I kind of forgot what his price tag was when I just went down here. I was kind of surprised that it was only $4,100. I was thinking it was closer to $5K, but yeah, that's a steal. He's got great numbers versus lefties, only a 7% K rate versus them this season, a 318 batting average, over a 400 base percentage, a 205 ISO, so Alex Bregman, very easy play at only $4,100. And third base, I wouldn't say is that strong. You could use Manny Machado, but since I have some interest in Clayton Kershaw, it makes no sense for me to pay top dollar for Machado when I can get Alex Bregman at only $4,100. And Joey Wendell, just kind of a cheaper lefty here versus Tanaka. He's got some okay splits versus righties, but nothing to get too excited about. Corey Seager, 5,200. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Zach Davies. I guess it could be Chris Paddock, I think. But I don't really think it matters. I mean, he's good versus lefties, he's good versus righties, and he's one of the best. He's just one of the better hitters in the league so far this season. So Corey Seager, like him, no matter really who's on the mound. 306 batting average to lefties, 333 batting average to righties. A little bit more power versus righties, but overall just been a very strong hitter. I like him. Carlos Correa, 4,000, just kind of cheapish, and going up against a lefty and Luzardo. Luzardo's not a bad pitcher, but I'll prefer some of these righties on the Astros here. And we can't get too picky on a 4-game slate. Dansby Swanson, 3,800. He went deep last night. He's actually been better versus righties compared to the lefties this season. He's actually been kind of garbage versus lefties, for being honest. Just very dark red bars here. Sorry, I gotta turn my laptop down. But versus the righties, it's not terrible. Not terrible at all. 217 ISO, 379 WOBA, 371 on base percentage, 300 batting average, and some pretty strong numbers. So Swanson at 3,800. He's fine for stacking up the Braves. And then we get to the outfield. Mookie Betts, 5,700. I mean, I say this every time, but he's been very bad versus lefties this season. But to the righties, a whole different story. I mean, 365 ISO to right-handed pitching, 692 slugging, 327 batting average. Only a 12% K rate compared to a 25% K rate to lefties. Mookie Betts, I think he's fine. If you want to play Acuna, if you want to play Ozuna, yeah, they're fine options too. I just didn't feel like listing the entire slate. I didn't want to sound repetitive, but they are fine options as well. George Springer, 4,800. I like him quite a bit. I think I'm going to make him the thumbnail of this video. He's been swinging a hot bat. He just had a double dong recently, and he's facing another lefty, which he's been hitting lefties well this season with a near 300 ISO. So George Springer at $4,800. You can sign me up for that. I think he's an excellent play. Austin Meadows, 4,300. Seems a bit cheap here leading off versus Tanaka. He's always hit right-handed pitching very well. This season over a 200 ISO, so I love that price tag on Meadows. Aaron Hicks, 3,500. He's got some decent numbers versus righties. Nothing crazy, but a near 200 ISO, so I like the pop. He's hit lefties better overall for contact and getting on base, but just a little bit more pop versus righties this season, so Hicks is fine, and we know the Yankees' offense has plenty of upside no matter who they're facing. Don't love the matchup versus Morton, but I wouldn't say he's been locked down this season. Then Chris Davis, 3,400. He's been hitting quite a bit of homers recently too. So if you want a hot bat, $3,400. You got Chris Davis. I prefer him versus lefties. Like this year, he's been bad versus righties. He's been very, very bad. I know that a couple of years before that, he was more reverse splits where he had more power versus righties. But so far this season, it's been a little ugly, although he still has a little bit more power versus righties with a 154 ISO compared to a 069 ISO versus lefties. But overall, he's been a better hitter versus lefties, but still a little bit more pop versus righties. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope it was helpful. If it was, make sure you leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out. I really do appreciate that. I think that's pretty much it. I'll have my NASCAR video out on Friday morning. I had my first look video for NFL posted yesterday, because today is not Wednesday, and then I will get my showdown video out today as well, so look out for that content if you're interested. But anyway, I'm going to head out, guys. I'm going to get to bed. It's late, and I'm tired, so I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you guys have a fantastic Wednesday.